When Officer Aria Morgan was ambushed and left fighting for her life in the ICU, her loyal German Shepherd canine partner, Titan, knew something was terribly wrong. A single whiff of a familiar chemical scent turned a routine investigation into a deadly conspiracy that spanned airports, hospitals, and secret labs. As the hospital shadows deepened and enemies revealed themselves, Titan's unwavering loyalty became Aria's last line of defense. But in a world where betrayal hides behind every mask, can one woman and her dog truly expose the truth? This is their fight, a story of instincts, loyalty, and a love that never quits. The fluorescent lights of Cedar-Crest Memorial Hospital's ICU cast sharp shadows over Aria Morgan's pale face as Titan pressed his nose against the observation window. Something was wrong. The German Shepherd's keen eyes tracked Dr. Whitaker's every move, a low, rumbling growl vibrating deep in his chest. "Easy, boy," murmured Officer Javier Soto, giving the leash a gentle tug. But Titan wouldn't relax. His ears pinned back, his whole body taut with tension. Through the glass, Aria lay motionless, surrounded by a web of 4 lines and softly beeping monitors. Just 12 hours earlier, she and Titan had been on their routine patrol at Grantham Regional Airport, weaving through the warren of terminals and security checkpoints. Titan was the first to catch that acrid tang in the air, a sharp chemical signature that always spelled danger. Trusting her partner's instincts, as she had for 6 years, Aria followed his lead without question. They tracked a suspect to Terminal D, where a standard cargo search spiraled into something far more sinister. Now Aria was fighting for her life, and Titan couldn't shake the feeling that the threat still lingered. Dr. Whitaker adjusted the flow in Aria's arm, and Titan's growl grew louder. Javier tugged again on the leash, but the K9 refused to move. There was something eerily familiar in the doctor's movements, something that pulled at Titan's memory, a scene from the airport, buried beneath instinct and training. But Titan couldn't make his human partner understand. "I know you're worried, boy," Javier said, kneeling to meet Titan's gaze. "We all are. But she's in good hands." The words meant nothing to Titan. All he knew was that the same chemical scent that had triggered his warning at the airport now clung to Dr. Whitaker's scrubs. Every time the doctor entered Aria's room, her vitals inexplicably declined. At the nurse's station, Dr. Emily Navarro, a young resident with a quiet determination, watched Titan's behavior closely. She had worked with therapy dogs before, but she knew police K9s were different. This wasn't simple anxiety or separation distress. This was something else entirely. "Has he been like this with all the medical staff?" she asked, moving closer to Officer Soto. "No, ma'am," Javier said. "Only today, and only with him." His voice was cut off by a sudden shrill alarm from Aria's monitor. They both turned to the window just in time to see Dr. Whitaker rush to her bedside, barking urgent orders as her vitals plummeted. Titan lunged forward, nearly ripping the leash from Javier's hands. His bark echoed down the sterile hallway, a sound Aria would have recognized instantly. It wasn't his alert for narcotics or explosives. It was his warning. Dr. Navarro's eyes narrowed as she watched Dr. Whitaker's frantic movements. "How long have you known him?" she asked quietly. "Since Aria was admitted last night," Javier replied, voice tense. "Why?" Dr. Navarro's expression darkened. "I've been in this ICU for 3 years," she said slowly, "and I've never seen him before." Titan's barking rose, to a fever pitch as Dr. Whitaker glanced at the observation window. For a moment, their eyes locked. Recognition, fear, hatred flickered in the doctor's expression before he spun on his heel, moving quickly toward the service elevator at the end of the hall. "Stop him!" Dr. Navarro shouted, but Titan was already in motion. 6 years of training, countless hours of pursuit drills, it had all led to this moment. The imposter had hurt his partner once. He wouldn't get a second chance. The elevator doors were closing as Titan broke free from Javier's grip. Javier's shout and Dr. Navarro's gasp were left behind as the German Shepherd bolted down the hall, claws skidding on the polished floor. Titan knew one thing. Aria always said he was more than a canine partner. He was her guardian angel. And guardian angels never take coffee breaks. As the doors slammed shut, the last thing Javier and Dr. Navarro heard was the unmistakable sound of Titan's jaws meeting their target, followed by a very human scream. Dr. Navarro pushed her way through the growing crowd in the hallway, her face set with determination. "Check his ID now," she ordered, already dialing the real ICU attending physician's number. He had been out on his lunch break, but he was rushing back. The security guard yanked a wallet from the man's pocket, flipping it open to reveal an ID badge. The name read, Noah Grant, an orderly from a different hospital entirely. Titan's growl deepened as Javier read the name aloud. "Get a tox screen on Aria's blood now," Dr. Navarro ordered, already moving back toward the ICU. "And lock down this room. No one in or out without my authorization." Javier kept a tight grip on Titan's harness as they followed Dr. Navarro. Titan wanted to stay and guard the imposter, but Aria needed him more. The elevator doors closed on Noah Grant's twisted face. He wasn't talking, but his eyes said enough. This wasn't over. Back in Aria's room, the real Dr. Malcolm Green, 30 years older than the imposter and known for his bow tie and brisk manner, scanned her charts, his brow furrowed. "These medication orders," he muttered. "They're all wrong. Look at these dosages." Titan whined, pressing against Javier's leg. The handler recognized the sound, Titan's way of telling him something was wrong, even when he couldn't bark or scratch to indicate the location. Dr. Navarro noticed too. "What is it, boy?" she asked, kneeling beside Titan. "Show me." Titan's intense gaze locked onto the small refrigerator in the corner of the room, the one used to store temperature-sensitive medications. Dr. Navarro followed his line of sight and hesitated. "Officer Soto, can you have Titan check that like you would in the field?" she asked. Javier nodded. "Search, Titan. Find it." Released from his formal position, Titan moved methodically around the refrigerator, his nose working furiously. He stopped abruptly, sat, and stared at the base of the unit, the universal K9 signal, target located. A maintenance worker pried open the refrigerator's bottom panel. Inside, taped to the compressor, was a small package of clear vials marked only with a symbol that sent chills down Javier's spine. It was the same tattoo they'd seen on one of the smugglers at Grantham Regional, just before everything had gone to hell. "Son of a..." Javier muttered, pulling out his phone. "This goes way beyond a random attack." Dr. Navarro nodded grimly, documenting everything. "They followed her here," she whispered. "The real question is, how many more are out there?" Titan's ears flicked at a faint noise. In the hallway, an orderly pushed a medication cart past the door. Every staff member had been triple-checked since the imposter was discovered, but Titan wasn't taking any chances, not after what happened at the airport. Titan's mind drifted back to their first real bust together, tracking a suspect through an abandoned warehouse. The moment the floor gave way under Aria's feet, Titan had ignored every training protocol. He'd broken position and seized her tactical vest in his jaws, refusing to let go until backup arrived. The department wanted to reprimand Aria for not enforcing strict K-9 procedures, but she'd stood her ground. "My dog, my rules," she'd said. "He made a judgment call. I'm alive because he thinks for himself." Thunder rumbled outside the hospital windows, a low, ominous growl that mirrored Titan's tension. Storms always took him back to that night 6 months ago, the night everything had started to unravel. Aria had been working late, reviewing a cold case Titan didn't understand, but he could smell the fear in her even before she realized it was there. She'd made 3 phone calls that night. The first went to voicemail. The second to an unlisted number that Titan had memorized by the tremor in her fingers. The third never connected at all. That was when the black SUV had appeared in their rearview mirror. A soft moan from the hospital bed snapped Titan back to the present. Aria's fingers twitched, her eyelids fluttering. Titan whined, pressing his nose gently against her hand. The doctors had reduced her sedation, hoping she'd wake on her own, but it was taking time. "She's fighting," Dr. Navarro said softly from the doorway. Titan hadn't heard her approach. He was getting tired too. Just like Aria had fought for him when everyone else thought he was a lost cause. Dr. Navarro checked Aria's vitals in the dim light. Her own eyes were ringed with exhaustion. She hadn't left the ICU since the imposter had been discovered. There was a quiet fire in her that reminded Titan of Aria's, the same refusal to accept what didn't add up. Flipping through Aria's file, Dr. Navarro murmured half to herself. 5 years with the department. Highest arrest record in the K-9 unit. But it's the small things. Complaints about digging too deep into routine cases. Notes about rehabilitating an aggressive dog no one else believed in. She looked down at Titan. "You two weren't just doing your jobs, were you?" she whispered. "You were looking for something. Something that nearly got her killed." A sudden flash of lightning illuminated the room, and in that instant Titan saw something else. A muzzle flash in a dark terminal, the acrid scent of gunpowder, Aria's body hitting the floor. The same chemical stink that clung to the imposter doctor's clothes. Aria's fingers twitched again, this time curling weakly around Titan's muzzle. Her breathing shifted, shallow, faster. Fighting. Dr. Navarro moved quickly to the bedside, checking her pupils. "Aria? Officer Morgan? Can you hear me?" Titan recognized the look on Aria's face, the same iron determination she'd had the day she refused to give up on him. She was coming back, and when she did, they would finish what they started. Because Aria had taught him that some battles were worth every risk. That loyalty meant standing your ground, even when the odds were impossible. And that the real threats didn't always bare their teeth. Sometimes they smiled while reaching for the knife. Thunder growled again outside, rattling the windows of Cedar Crest Memorial. Somewhere in the city, the people who had tried to kill his partner were realizing their plan had failed. They would come again, with new disguises and new tricks. But they didn't know what Titan knew. Love was stronger than fear. Trust could outlast any training. And some partnerships were forged deeper than any oath. Titan backed away from the bed, positioning himself between Aria and the ventilation grate in the corner. That's when the scent hit him. Bitter, chemical wrong. Javier's voice was a sharp gasp, but Titan was already in motion. With a single leap, his powerful jaws clamped down on the plastic fire alarm cover. The shrill sound of the alarm pierced the air, mixing with the sudden hiss from the vents. Emergency protocols slammed into gear instantly. Fire doors snapped shut. The hospital's ventilation reversed, sucking the contaminated air out of the building. In the confusion of evacuation, no one noticed the dark-suited men slipping away or the unmarked vans rolling out of the parking lot. Hours later, in a secure wing of Cedar Crest Memorial across town, Aria Morgan's eyes finally fluttered open. The room was unfamiliar, the view outside different, but Titan's head resting on her bed was exactly where it should be. "Hey, partner," she whispered, her voice hoarse but steady. Titan's tail thumped once against the floor as Dr. Navarro hurried in to check her vitals. "Did we get them?" Aria asked. Javier stepped into her line of sight, relief and determination in his eyes. "Not all of them, not yet," he admitted. "But thanks to Titan, we've got enough to blow this thing wide open. The real task force is on it now, the FBI, the legitimate one." Aria's fingers found Titan's ear, scratching that familiar spot that always made his eyes soften. "Good boy," she murmured. "I knew you'd figure it out." But Titan kept one ear perked, one eye open. The game wasn't over. The people behind this had connections everywhere, resources that no one had fully mapped out yet. And Aria Morgan was still their loose end. Outside her room, Detective Leo Mendez coordinated with federal agents. Their radios crackled with updates as the story of the pharmaceutical smuggling ring and the biological weapons hidden in legitimate medical shipments broke across the news. Yet Titan knew the real battle was just beginning. Somewhere in the city, a phone was ringing in a high-rise office. And on the other end of that call, someone was very, very angry. They had tried to silence Aria with bullets. They had tried to silence her with poison. They had failed. Titan settled into position by the door, his watchful eyes never leaving the entrance. Let them try again. This time, he'd be ready. The emergency generators of Cedar Crest Memorial thrummed to life as the city grid flickered and died, one block at a time. A blackout spread like ink across the skyline, swallowing light and hope in equal measure. Sirens wailed in the distance. From her hospital bed, Aria's voice was stronger now. "This isn't a coincidence," she murmured. She turned to Javier, her eyes sharp and clear even though her body was still healing. "They're making their move." Dr. Navarro checked the backup systems, her face set. "Security's doubled on this floor," she said quietly. "We have real FBI agents at every—" She stopped mid-sentence. Titan had risen to his feet, nose twitching as he sniffed the air. His entire posture changed, not just alert, but something deeper, recognition. Aria started to sit up, but Javier gently pressed her back down. "Stay down," he whispered, his hand drifting toward his sidearm. "What is it, boy?" The answer came in a sudden cascade of system failures. The backup generator stuttered, the electronic locks clicked open, and the computers at the nurse's station went dark, taking the security cameras with them. A slow, deliberate voice cut through the silence from the doorway. "Well, isn't this cozy?" Chief Edgar Warren of the Sterling City Police Department stepped into the room, his badge catching the emergency light's faint glow. Two men in tactical gear flanked him, securing the hallway. The man Aria had trusted for years looked different now, colder, calculated. "You should have stayed unconscious, Morgan," Warren said as he closed the door behind him. "Would have been easier that way." Titan's growl was low and thunderous, but he held his position, waiting for Aria's command. She had taught him patience in the face of betrayal. "How long?" Aria asked, her fingers inching toward the nurse call button. "How long have you been moving that poison through my airport?" Warren's smile was tired, bitter. "Your airport? That's always been your problem, Aria. You take things too personally. Too many questions about cargo that wasn't your concern. Those drugs are killing people," she snapped. "Kids are dying because of whatever your military friends are brewing up." Warren's sigh was almost wistful as he drew his gun. "It's bigger than drugs," he said, his smile flashing white in the dim light. "The pharmaceuticals, they're just the packaging." Titan's ears flicked at Aria's subtle hand signal, a silent command only he would see. "Bioweapons," Aria murmured. "That's what this is really about." Warren's smirk was all teeth. "Give the lady a prize." He raised his gun. "And now—" He never finished. Titan launched himself in a single, powerful leap, jaws clamping down on Warren's gun arm, just as Aria yanked the curtains closed, plunging the room into darkness. Warren's shot went wide, shattering the window. The chaos that followed was a flurry of snarls, shouts, and bone-deep determination. Javier tackled one of the tactical officers. Dr. Navarro slammed her hand on the emergency lockdown override, sealing the ward. Aria rolled from the bed, ignoring the fiery pain in her side. In the darkness, Titan was a force of nature. He didn't go for the obvious. He feinted, twisted, and struck where it mattered most, years of instinct and partnership guiding him. Warren's head cracked against the edge of a medical cart with a dull, sickening thud. His men were professionals, but they hadn't trained for this, hadn't trained for a dog who thought like a soldier and moved like a ghost. One of them tried to pin Titan, choking him out. But Aria's quiet command cut through the chaos. "Titan now!" Titan feigned weakness for a split second. When the man's grip shifted, Titan twisted free, using the attacker's own weight to springboard toward Warren. The chief's backup weapon clattered across the floor, spinning to a stop at Aria's feet. She didn't hesitate. "Hold," she snapped. Titan's jaws locked onto Warren's shoulder, not breaking skin, not yet, but promising worse if he moved. The tactical team froze. And that was when the cavalry arrived. Detective Leo Mendez led the joint FBI-TF task force through the door. They'd been waiting for this moment, watching for this final play. As Warren was dragged away in handcuffs, he turned to Aria, eyes blazing with fury. "You have no idea what you started," he sneered. "There are people above me, above all of us. They'll never let this see the light of day." Aria scratched behind Titan's ear, her expression calm and sure. "Maybe," she said softly, "but they've never dealt with a partner like mine." If you were on the edge of your seat, don't forget to like, comment, and share this story. Let us know in the comments what you'd do if you had a partner like Titan by your side. And be sure to subscribe for more thrilling tales of courage and loyalty. See you in the next one.